I wasn't even going to stop at the thrift store, but I'm glad I did. Look at these records piled up in these shopping carts. I found some incredible rock and roll and rockabilly records, as well as an iconic jazz record. Okay, so a little tease there at the beginning where I actually filmed a flip through of the records that I bought. And I want to do that more in my videos. I don't want to just sit down and show you records that I bought. Although those videos I think are interesting to me, it's not the same as watching a flip through. So we're going to get to that flip through at the middle of this video. So I want to show you sort of part one of this, these jazz hauls that I've been getting around town, because I have a feeling that someone with a pretty big music collection passed away, and whether they had a storage unit or a house, somebody is taking things to the local thrift stores, and these jazz records are being dispersed between two of the three main thrift stores where I live. The other hint that I have of that is I was at Goodwill the other day, which is one of the thrift stores where I haven't been seeing any jazz records. And I walked to the back, and standing there, all stacked up, is a set of Ludwig drums. And after looking closely at them, I can tell that they're old. And these drums, when I go to date them, are coming up as 1963 and 1965. The inside of the drum has the date on it. A friend of mine showed me that after I posted the photo of the drums to Instagram. So this 1960s gold sparkle Ludwig drum set is just sitting there at Goodwill, and this thing's like $60 for all of it. So of course I buy it, and so I feel like some musician or somebody who really loved music passed away. Anyway, this first haul of records is from Thrift World in Council Bluffs, and I actually waited until the records were 98 cents a piece. They're sort of middle of the road jazz records, and that doesn't necessarily, like, I don't want to sound disrespectful to the artist. It's not that, it's just that the value is not very high, and the name recognition, save for a couple of them, isn't super high as well. Plus, the era of jazz is one of the not as sought after eras. But at 98 cents a piece, I can definitely make some money off these. So this first collection is, I don't know, 20 records or so of like jazz from the big band era, the swing era, 1920s, middle 1920s into the 1940s. So I'll go over all of those, and then I'll cut to the flip through video with maybe a little voiceover talking about what I saw at the thrift store, and then a breakdown in front of camera of all the records that I got, and which ones I'm going to keep and which ones I'm going to take to Homer's and trade it in for cash. Now this stash of records, I'm pretty sure this first stash, all of them I'm going to take in and just make some money off of it so I can continue to fund my business, possibly get some records while I'm there at the record store, whatever. So without further delay, let's get into it. So first record is Love Alive by Walter Hawkins. This came from the collection of Helen Berry. So I don't think Helen is necessarily the musician who passed away, but maybe it's one of this person's kids or a spouse, or maybe it's from a collection that has nothing to do with what I'm suspecting is going on. We're missing the inner sleeve. We're on the light label. This has kind of a sunset image on the label, Lexicon Music Inc. I think this is sort of like spiritual gospel, maybe a little bit of funk in there as well. And this guy's playing drums that, are a similar style. He's got two toms on his drum kit, but a similar style. So this one, going to Homer's, trade that in for credit. And now you'll start getting to know what I mean about this jazz stuff. But we've got Woody Herman in Disco Order, Volume 29, between 1952, July and December 1952. This is on the, sorry if I don't say this right, A-Jazz label. And we've got an inner sleeve. And then I cleaned all these records already. We got a red A-Jazz label on this one. But, Woody Herman, classic big band artist. I have a few Woody Herman albums. For the big band artists, I really like to just sort of get a comp, like a greatest hits comp. So you have all of their best big band music, but getting into each record that they released is a little bit too much since I'm not as interested in the big band era. But then we've got Gene Krupa in Disco Order Volume 5. And this is actually the second batch of jazz records that I picked up from Thrift World. I don't believe I made a video of that first batch. I got them, I cleaned them, I took them right into the record shop to do a quick flip turnaround on them. This is on the orange A-Jazz label. But this, Gene Krupa. And then we've got Orville Knapp and his orchestra, 1934 to 1936, featuring Dixie Lee. So I just have a feeling this is more Dixieland jazz. This is on a Yellow Sunbeam label. And the record, I mean, so far these records are all in, VG plus to near mint minus condition. Really, really nice. I know some of you don't, technically EX is not a condition class for records. Some record shops I go to have used this EX designation as somewhere in between VG plus and near mint minus, just to better communicate the records. Let me know in the comments how you feel about that. Is it BS, or are you like, yeah, we can have an EX class in the condition rating? And then we've got Charlie Barnett and his orchestra, 1944 to 49. It still has the hype sticker. It's in shrink. Inner sleeve is there. It's on the green for Golden Era Records, the green label. Again, excellent condition. Really, really nice. Only just the very most minor surface scuffs and whatnot. Now, this one came from Homer's. I imagine maybe a used record from a while ago, because they don't have these labels anymore. But we have the complete Woody Herman in Disco Order, Volume 24, August 1947 to December 1947. Again, A-Jazz Records. Inner sleeve is there. Red A-Jazz label, but this one has only one Z in A-Jazz, not two like the other ones do. So I don't know what the difference is there. But yeah, Woody Herman, your classic big band. And I think this one might be again from Helen Berry. So this is probably a different collection than the jazz collection, since this is more gospel. But we have Sandra Williams, Miss Heartaches, Hark the Voice. This is on Atlantic. No inner sleeve on the yellow, man, I can't say my colors, the green and blue label. And that one's in really good shape as well. And then a more recognized name, especially if you're a fan of the Blues Brothers, we've got 16 Cab Calloway Classics. And this is CBS and on the Jazz number 10 label. And that's on, again, a pristine record on the orange CBS label. I have a Miles Davis record like this that's actually on here, Miles Davis Facets. I have that one. And then we've got two here of the Dorsey Brothers, 1928 to 1930. This is Volume 2. And this is cool because this is on like this really nice green vinyl. This is called the Old Masters, and it says limited edition for collectors. But pretty nondescript as far as the manufacturer goes. This just looks like the label is called the Old Masters, and they have this no-nonsense kind of label on here and cover jacket design. But nothing on the back. This must have been part of a box set, I assume, and these were in that box set, and they've since been separated, unfortunately. This one's Volume 1 of the Dorsey Brothers, 1928, on that real nice green vinyl. So yeah, take that one in. Again, 98 cents a piece. So these aren't going to go for all that much, maybe $2, $3, that kind of thing, except for a few, like Cab Calloway and his orchestra. This one's split pretty bad, so I need to glue that one. But superb live performances, never before available. This is on Swing House. This is on a silver with black lettering Swing House label. And again, the vinyl is just near mint minus condition. Really, really nice records, which is part of why I grabbed these. And then on the Unique Jazz label in mono, we've got Cab Calloway at Club Zanzibar, July 8th through the 10th, 1945. We got a price sticker tear, and then somebody's old price tag on there. The plastic inner sleeve, and then it's on the white Unique Jazz label. Again, the record is in near mint minus condition. And then we've got Larry Clinton and his orchestra, 1941 and 49. And this is a paper inner sleeve, and that's on the white circle label. This one's in mono, the original mono. This one I thought was cool, and I thought about keeping it. I might need to listen to it first, but we've got On Stage Volume 1, Ethel Merman and Gertrude Niesen. This is from X Vault Originals, RCA. I think, yeah, this is on RCA. You know, the plastic inner sleeve. This says Vic as the label, but then there's RCA information on the back. Again, vinyl is in really, really nice shape. Near mint minus, certainly VG plus. And then we've got Gene Krupa, The Swinging Bands. And 1945 to 47. It's on the Black Joker label. Proprietary artist. This might be a foreign pressing made in Italy. This is an Italian pressing. So we'll make note of that when we show the value. And then we've got Eddie Condon and his All-Stars. Jazz as it should be played. A bunch of writing on the back. This is on Jazzology, and it's in stereophonic sound. It's on the white and blue Jazzology label. Eddie Condon and his All-Stars, which is, I believe, Dixieland Jazz. And then, you know, Count Basie, Half a Sixpence, you know, is a pretty common thrift store record here. This one's in really nice shape, though. It does have a little punch out. Inner sleeve is there. It's on the Dot label. And this is in really nice shape, VG Plus for sure. And then we have a sealed record, Johnny Dodds, 16 rare recordings by one of the men who shaped the history of the New Orleans clarinet. This is 1968. This is definitely a reissue, but this is sealed. I'm guessing this is like an 80s reissue, the newer RCA label, maybe even 1970s. But that one's sealed, so you got to grab sealed records when they're only $1. And then we've got Bobby Short is Mad About Noel Coward. This has a little, you know, the little cut on the top, so this must have been sent back. It's on Atlantic. Nice gatefold, double LP. Double LPs especially at 98 cents. Always a great deal. Inner sleeve is there on the nice green and red Atlantic label there. And I'm going to get this back in the inner sleeve because it was on the outside of the inner sleeve for some reason. Must have put it back in correctly after I cleaned it. And these were all pretty easy to clean. You know, certainly a lot of dust and all that stuff, but they weren't dirty at all. So just a microfiber with some distilled water and isopropyl alcohol, a little bit of Dawn dish soap, and that cleared them all right up. Town Hall Concert 1945. This is a reissue because it does have the barcode and the newer type of shrink wrap, but this is featuring Gene Krupa, Charlie Ventura, Teddy Wilson, Flip Phillips, Stuff Smith, and Bill Coleman on the Commodore Jazz Classics label. And that's on that maroon Commodore label. Again, the record's in near mint minus condition. And then we've got Red Nichols and his 5 pennies, 1929 to 1932. And this is on the white IAYRC, International Association Jazz Record Collectors. So that one's in really nice shape, as is the jacket. And we got Jazz Heritage Series Volume 29. And that's Johnny Dodds 1, Spirit of New Orleans, 1926 to 1927 with the original price sticker on there. Shrink is still on there. Inner sleeve this is on MCA. Nice rainbow cover for MCA, so a later reissue. And then for the golden age of British dance bands, Bands on Film, Harry Roy and his famous band and Nat Ganella and his Georgians. This is a UK press on the EMI label. Or a subsidiary of EMI, World Records. It's in mono. And then we've got One Night Stand with Charlie Barnett, Volume 2. Still has the sticker on front. This is on Joyce on a blue label. Pretty nice. And we have The Uncollected, Volume 2 with Woody Herman and his First Heard in 1944. This is a whole series from Hindsight Records. I don't know if this was like a TV thing, you know, or a mail order deal, but you just got this huge set of these uncollected performances from these big band names. And then this one's a little bit random. This is Junior, Mama Used to Say. This is a single Polygram Mercury, just a 12-inch single, VG Plus. And then a couple more here, getting toward the end. We've got, I've had this one before, On the Road, Count Basie and his Orchestra. Still in the shrink, Dirt Cheap Records. This one's on a really cool red vinyl. It says Pablo Today by Pablo Records. That one. Two more. Another Pablo, Kansas City Shout, Count Basie, Joe Turner, Eddie Cleanhead Vincent. Later in their careers, getting into the 70s, maybe even in the 80s. Nice little red vinyl here from Pablo, which I thought was cool. And then One Night Stand with Charlie Barnett and at the Casino Gardens in Ocean Park, California. This is on Joyce as well. Joyce is the label in that blue. Again, really nice condition. Got a little punch out here. But that's that first batch of records. So 98 cents each. And I know, again, some of them are only worth a few dollars, but I really want to make sure that if they're at the thrift store and they haven't been bought even at 98 cents, that we can get them into the record shop at Homer's. And I can't imagine I'll get turned down. But even if they put these in the $5 or less bins for a couple bucks each, there are enough jazz enthusiasts who go to Homer's who I think will appreciate these older jazz musicians, the big band style, the swing, the Dixieland jazz, especially when the vinyl itself is in such good condition. It's hard to find records, especially at the thrift store where the vinyl is in such good shape. All right, so here is the pile of thrift store records that I went through to find the better jazz records. So you can see here the records are all stacked in front of these plastic bins. They were originally on top of the bins, just stacked vertically. So I had actually gone through them. So this is the start of my second pass. You can see on the right side, there's like a kind of a black and white speckled record. That's the pile of records that I think I'm going to take, but I want to go through them a second time to see if there's anything that I should take. So let's watch the flip through of that, and then there's even more records that I'm going to find in the back of the store. So watch all the way through. Just as a reminder, these are the records that I'm either going to keep for sure or that I want to look up to check value to decide if I want to spend $2 on them. So after going through all of these records, I go to the back of the store and there's shopping carts full of stuff and there's a bunch of records in them, including all of these records. So I pull them out and start sorting through them. Here's my flip through. I didn't pick anything ahead of time, so you're going to see me pick stuff that I think I need to check the price on or that I know for sure I want to buy. Let me know down in the comments if there's anything that you really think I should have grabbed, and if you tell me soon enough, I might actually be able to go back and get it if the records are still there. Now, as I'm editing this, I am double checking value on some of the records that I quickly passed over, and this one, when I searched on Discogs, has a median value of about $17. That doesn't necessarily mean it's worth $17 because there are quite a few for sale for around $5 or $6, but I'm going to go back on Tuesday when they reopen to see if this record is still there. you got to keep in mind the store was going to close in like 20 minutes, so I had to think quickly and pick the records that I wanted. But this is another example of a record that at second glance, watching the video back, makes me go, I should check the value on this. And sure enough, pull it up on Discogs, and as long as I have the correct pressing, this has a median value of around $11. Now, there are 34 for sale at $2.51, but the want-to-have ratio at 54 want and 318 have makes me think that this might be worth a $2 pickup, even if it won't be hugely profitable. So you've all been very patient going through that sort of not the most thrilling and exciting collection of jazz records from the thrift store, but the next set is pretty good. Now, don't get me wrong, there are some records in there that aren't terribly exciting, but there are a few in there that I think are quite special. So I'm going to start with the records that I am going to let go, and there are some really special ones in there, I think, that are cool. They're not super, super high dollar, but they are more valuable, including one that doesn't have an entry in Discogs. There's no entry denoting this version of the album. So let's get into that. Now, you've seen a lot of these records in the flip through video that you just watched, and some of them you're not going to see in here because after looking them up on Discogs, double checking condition, I decided to pass on them at $2 a piece. So let's get into the records that I'm going to move along, take them into homers with this other lot that I got. So first up, we've got Parisian Swing, Django Reinhardt, Stefan Grappelli with the Quintet of the Hot Club of France. Now, I did listen to this one, just not my kind of vibe as far as jazz goes. This is on GNP Crescendo on a nice orange and white label, and this record is VG Plus Near Mint Minus. It's in mono, but playable in stereo, and there's another record, I think, here from Django, or another couple. This is that Europa Jazz series. We've got Earl Hines, Clark Terry, and Teddy Wilson. And this one has a nice gatefold on there. Record in the sleeve, and the record again is in near mint minus condition to VG Plus. Just really, really clean vinyl. This one will go to homers, and we'll get some cash for that one. Again, I paid $2 for it. That's probably a $4 to $6 record. So even if I break even on some of these, I'm okay with that. I just want to get these records in front of the people, the customers at the record shop that are going to really appreciate them. This one was a little bit more special. I need to look up use the matrix to look up which pressing, because there were a couple versions, but this is Jump Up Carnival. This is on Cook Laboratories, and I have this wrapped up because it has a plastic inner sleeve and I don't want to mess it up and pull it out, so my apologies. Jacket's in pretty rough shape. We've got a lot of kind of like mold and water damage spotting, but I did wipe it down with a little bit of rubbing alcohol just to try to neutralize any of the mold. But this, I believe, is like calypso, reggae type music. And that one's pretty cool. That'll go to homers as well. And then we've got a sealed record. Again, I don't think these are like super, super old because the shrink wrap is a more modern shrink wrap. But this is Django Reinhardt and Stefan Grappelli, the Quintet of the Hot Club of France. This one's sealed, hasn't been opened. $2 for a sealed jazz record, even if it's a little bit more of this sort of precursor to the Dixieland kind of vibe coming in. We'll go with that at all times. Now, this one I thought was going to for sure be quite a bit more valuable. It's up there a little bit, nothing crazy. And again, I'll put the value on the screen. But we have Introducing Tony St. Thomas on Tosa Records. And this is volume 1. And it's actually signed by the artist in the bottom corner, which from what I have found, taking these to Homer's when they have the artist autograph, it doesn't really do much to enhance the value of the record when it's an artist that isn't, it's not a John Coltrane or a Miles Davis or something like that. If that's the case, you're probably going to send it off to get authenticated and really add some value to the record. It's on the black Tosa Records label, and this vinyl's in really nice shape. This is VG Plus easily. It is a stereo copy. Introducing Tony St. Thomas. So we'll take that one into Homer's. And then this one is cool. This is Women in Jazz, Swing Time to Modern, Volume 3. Yep, Volume 3 on Stash Records, Inc. This is still in the shrink. Inner sleeve is there. It's on that silver Stash Records label. Look this one up if you're interested in, a women-centric jazz record. This is really cool that they have this, and I think this will go to Homer's. And then we've got Django Again, 1935. This is first recordings of the quintet of the Hot Club of France. So this series was pretty popular with this collector. There's 3 in that series, and then we have another Django Reinhardt, The Versatile Giant. That one's on Jazz Legacy, and the Jazz Legacy label is this sort of goldish silver and dark colored label. Django Reinhardt. And then we're back on Europa Jazz with Dizzy Gillespie and Jerry Mulligan. Pretty cool. I do have some Jerry Mulligan. Not a lot of Dizzy Gillespie. This has a nice gatefold. A little bit of spotting from humidity and water. This one's in decent shape. We'll take that one into Homer's. And then this is one of the records that look to be more valuable on Discogs. It doesn't go for much on eBay. There's quite a few copies at around $20 to $25 each. Discogs, it felt like this was maybe a little bit more valuable, but we've got Cliff Sings, Cliff Richard and the Shadows, and the Nori Paramore Strings. This one's in really good shape. We've got inner sleeve is there. And then this is a white label promo, which I did not see on Discogs. I did not see any options for a white label promo, so I may need to add this to Discogs. It's on the ABC Paramount label, and Cliff Sings. This one is pretty cool, but not my thing. Going to take it in and let it go. And then we've got a big Contemporary Masters Series compilation. In the Newport series, live unreleased highlights from 1956, 58, and 63. Got a barcode on here, so we know this is like a 1980s or 90s. But this is a gatefold double LP. Got Louis Armstrong on the front. And this is on the red and orange Columbia label. Both discs are in near mint minus condition. Really, really nice. And then we've got Count Basie, the Dedication Series, Volume 11, the Retrospective Sessions. This is a nice ABC Impulse with the gatefold on that. And then these discs are looking pretty good. They're on this sort of red to light green concentric circles ABC Impulse label. Copyright shows 1978. Both records are in near mint minus to VG Plus condition. Very, very nice. And then we have a Sarah Vaughan Belts the Hits. This is still in the shrink with the stereo sticker on there. No inner sleeve. It's on the Red Premiere label. And that one will go to Homer's as well. I do have a few Sarah Vaughan records, but I like the older ones that were from the 50s and early 60s. This is a later record. So I'm going to move that one on. And I have a copy of this already. It's equally rough. I think this one's an earlier version of it. But this one is borderline going to get rejected due to condition. But this is In a Romantic Mood, Oscar Peterson with strings. And this one does have the inner sleeve, but we have major split across the top. It's on Verve on the black label. This one I would probably put in VG minus condition, maybe even G plus. We still have a lot of gloss and shine, but there are some more serious scuffs and a couple scratches on here. A few of the scratches are just barely feelable. So I think this one, despite the more robust vinyl that these were made on, might still have some issues with playback. So I already have a copy of that, so I think we'll take that one in. And then this one's the El Waz Trio, and I think we're getting into more of that calypso reggae stuff. But this is on Decca. No inner sleeve. It's on the pink Decca label, and there is one kind of crazy scratch on here that I can feel just a little bit that might cause some issues. Overall, though, I'd probably say this is like in a G plus, VG minus condition. But the jacket's really nice. For $2, I thought it was worth it to grab it. And then this one, these next couple of the ones that I'm not going to keep are some of the better ones. But we have Link Ray and the Raymen. This is on Epic, and we've got, some damage to the jacket here, ring wear, all that kind of stuff on the jacket. But this shows that this is a demonstration version. Nothing special on the inner, on the label that demonstrates that other than something stuck on it. You can see they've got a little sticker here on it, that iconic yellow and black Epic label. Now, this vinyl is super glossy, really nice, but I would probably still put this at VG condition. There's just enough little hairline scratches. I did play this back, and it played back pretty well. A little bit of surface noise, but it was really nice. This one's a little bit more valuable, I think, somewhere in the $40 range, but whatever I put down at the bottom is going to be what I looked up on Discogs using the Matrix. But Link Ray and the Raymen, really nice kind of rockabilly vibe to it. I did listen to it this morning. Not a lot of vocals. So, something like this, you think, wow, it's going to be, kind of like a Buddy Holly thing, vocals and music. And it was mostly just music, instrumental. So yeah, that one was pretty cool. And then lastly, we've got Marty Weil, Bad Boy, another promo copy. This is on Epic as well. Still a little bit of that water damage. I don't know if this was in a garage or maybe a storage unit. Plastic inner sleeve that I used from a different record, but we've got that nice yellow and black Epic label. This one's definitely going to be on the VG minus side. A lot of little hairline surface scratches that aren't deep. You can't feel them, but it just doesn't look as good. Still very high gloss. And you don't see that a lot with records this old. They so often have lost their luster and are just really scuffed up from being in and out of their sleeves. So that one is pretty cool too, and definitely one of the more interesting and valuable records. So now let's get into the records that I'm going to keep. Now, again, not all of these records are super valuable, but there are a couple at the end that are really, really cool. And some of them, I haven't even looked up the Matrix yet to know the exact value on them. So I will post sort of what my first impression was of what it's worth, or I'll speak what my first impression was of what it's worth, and then put what I found the actual value to be based on pulling the Matrix. So first up, we've got appearing nightly, the Mitchell Ruff Trio. The Mitchell Ruff Duo. And this is, shows Birdland and this woman recoiling at these Martians. The byline says, is this the place that's out of this world? And then on the back, you can see, and we're on the Roulette label under the Birdland series. And we do have an inner sleeve, and the vinyl itself, I put a sleeve on this, so it's not as easy to grab. I would say VG, but it's still shiny, but it has, some surface scratches. I played this back earlier, so we have some surface noise, but nothing terrible. And this is on that white multicolor graphic Roulette label. And I've got the music on vinyl inner sleeve ready to go because I meant to put it back in there, but forgot to when I got done listening to this. So let me get that situated, and we'll move on to the next record. Because we want these sleeved properly when they're the ones that we're going to keep. So this one I'm on the fence about. I listened to it. I thought for sure when I saw the cover, I'm like, oh yeah, Birdland, we're good to go. I listened to it. It wasn't quite what I was expecting. So I'm going to give it a couple more listens before I decide what to do with it. It felt a little bit more, I don't know, toward something that less improvisational and a little bit more composed. But I need to listen to it again because I could be completely wrong about that. I was listening to it while I was working on some stuff, as I often do, so I wasn't paying full attention, so I need to do that. And then we have Sweets for the Sweet, Harry Sweets Edison. This woman on the front. I haven't listened to this yet, but this just gives me good vibes. And then we've got that nice orange Sue Records label. First time seeing the Sue label. Jacket's in okay condition, not the best. So there's not a lot of like mold or funk or anything on there. Vinyl has some big scuffs on there that I think are going to make some surface noise, but won't cause any needle skips or jumps. But you're looking at definitely like a VG minus condition on those. And then we've got L'Essential Trenet, Charles Trenet. This is on Odeon, trademark of EMI Records. And this is a French musician. I haven't listened to these yet, but pretty much anytime I see something that is France related, like the earlier records I showed, I jump on those because I want to give them a shot. This shows Peters International and Odeon on a silver and multicolored label, 1975. So we'll give this a listen and see what we think. Then we got Ben Webster for the Governor, Volume 1. I see a saxophone. This says yes to jazz as far as the label goes. It's kind of a peach color. And anytime there's a jazz artist with a saxophone, I'm all about it. And Ben Webster's a name that's familiar to me. I don't have like immediate recall of the work that he's done or if I have him featured on some other CDs, other records of mine. But this one we're going to take a listen to. Now, some of these that I'm keeping, I might be keeping because I need more time to listen to them. I have a good feeling about them, or I suspect I'm going to like them, but I'm going to need multiple listens, and then I may decide to keep my collection tight to move them on to the record shop. But here we have Coleman Hawkins and Benny Carter, Coleman Hawkins All-Star Jam Band, and this features everybody from Django Reinhardt, who we saw earlier, to John Simmons, Michael Warlop in his orchestra. This is a nice gatefold. You can see we got saxophone. You know me, I love my jazz sax. Inner sleeve is there, and we're on Discs Swing, on like a pale yellow label. So this one I want to listen to before I move it along. I'm getting the vibes of it being more swing jazz as opposed to bop or hard bop. So, we'll most likely move that one along, but I want to listen to it first. And then we have the Red Norvo Trio with Tal Farlow and Charles Mingus, the Savoy Sessions. Charles Mingus, of course, a big clincher for me. I have several of his records. And this one I think is from a time where he was participating in these other jazz bands rather than leading things himself. But this is a double LP. I mean, $2. Nice double LP. On a photo of this gentleman, Red Norvo, and Savoy Jazz label, nice red. And all the records are just in really, really nice condition. This one was a little bit more valuable, nothing crazy, but then with the jacket being in rough shape, might take that down a touch. But we've got Barrel House Boogie and the Blues with this woman in a bar scene with a jazz band. A lot of tears on it, stickers, sides got tape on there. This is on Capitol Records. You can see the back. And then we've got that teal Capitol record label. The vinyl on this one is, I would say, VG minus condition. Lots of scuffs, and minor scratches. Nothing crazy though. So hopefully that one plays. Not sure if this one's going to end up staying in the collection, but I do like the sound of it. So we'll give it a listen. And then more Charles Trenet, On the Road to the Riviera. And I've got these all sleeved sort of properly, so it's hard to feel the back. But Charles Trenet, nice illustration with what looks like a chicken and a flower and a sun. And then this is on Angel Records with a purple label. And you can see it there. And this vinyl is in near mint minus condition, just like it was brand new, which is awesome. Let's get this in here proper. Nothing's worse than watching a YouTuber try to re-sleeve his records. Okay, starting to get into the much, much better stuff. This one I had a feeling was going to be a good one. Mambo Latino Dances. Chico O'Farrill and his Cubans on the Verve label. And then we've got the red and orange Verve label, which I have not seen before. I don't know if that's just sort of evocative of the Cuban Latino thing, but you can see our fat cover. This is split completely. The jacket's completely split, but the vinyl is in pretty good shape. I would say VG condition. And there's definitely some surface noise when playing it back. You can probably use a trip through the ultrasonic. This one, I think, just looking at a couple of the initial comps without pulling the matrix, was in that $25 range as far as value goes. So that's pretty good for a thrift store record. And then moving along, we've got the Savoy label, Johnny Mahegan's Reflections. And this one was a big disappointment as far as condition goes. Let's show the back of this first. Just your standard white with font or a text in the back. But I was so bummed to pull this one out. Not because this record's super valuable, but because it just looked like it was going to be cool. This is on the red and silver Savoy. And this is like major edge warp. Now I'm keeping it, obviously because it's damaged, but I think 3 of the tracks on each side are going to be playable because the vinyl's pristine. So this just got exposed to a little bit of heat and warped up. I know that Homer's has a unwarping machine, but I don't think they won't just do it for me if I ask them to. They have to own the record to do it. So they could do it and I'd buy it back. And go from there. But I'll take a listen to this. This just speaks to me. Been really loving Bill Evans and the piano jazz that he has, because normally I don't gravitate toward the piano jazz, but there's something that's really been pulling me in about it lately, and I've really been enjoying it. And then speaking of more piano, we have Dave McKenna, solo piano. And then this one is on the ABC Paramount. And this jacket's in a little bit rougher shape. A lot of spotting and all that on there. It does have the original inner sleeve. And then the black ABC Paramount label. This one VG minus, a lot of scuffs and stuff. So this one just, unless the gentleman acquired this one and just put up with the fact that the condition was a little rougher, doesn't seem to match a lot of the rest of the records as far as condition goes. And then this one was really interesting to me. This is the Tal Farlow album on Verve, and this is a Japanese press. This still is in the shrink. I haven't run the matrix to know what year this was. It feels newer. It is in mono. I've never heard Tal Farlow before, but we've got that Verve label. The vinyl is in, near mint condition. It is beautiful. And this one, I have a feeling, is going to stick around. I'm very excited to give it a first spin, and I think I'll do that after I am done recording this video. Because, folks, we only have 2 records to go. So I listened to this morning, and it was wonderful. It is mellow and chill and sultry and just what the doctor ordered as far as an iconic jazz album goes. This, on the Pacific Jazz label, is Grand Encounter. And this features John Lewis, Percy Heath, Bill Perkins, Chico Hamilton, and Jim Hall. And man, is this good. One of the more valuable records that I pulled. We've got that charcoal-colored Pacific Jazz label, and this is in VG+++ condition. Just a beautiful copy. There's the back of the record. Jacket, has some little bit of splitting at the top, some wear on it, but overall in pretty good shape. I just can't believe this was at a thrift store for $2. Just blows my mind. Unbelievable. Just unreal. So last but not least, the most valuable record that I pulled. As soon as I saw this, I just knew it was special. I listened to it this morning. It's up-tempo. It's pulsing. It's driving. You can really hear Thelonious Monk on this, but it's not a Thelonious Monk record. It's In Orbit with Clark Terry. And you've probably been waiting for me to talk about this after seeing it in the video. It's on the Riverside label, my first record I've ever had on Riverside. I have a few others on Pacific Jazz, but none on Riverside. And this is in just terrific condition. We've got the blue label. This is VG Plus for sure. Nice and glossy. Looks really, really good. Jacket needed a little bit of cleaning up, did a little wipe down on there, and that got it looking in better shape. Of course, it's not, certainly not mint, probably not even VG, but it's in pretty darn good shape for a record from 1958. And I'm pretty sure this is an original mono pressing. We're going to have to take a look. This set does say Spectrasonic High Fidelity Engineering. The middle value on this record on Discogs, and again, I'll adjust that down here if I run the matrix and it comes up as something else, but everything I could see on Discogs without running the matrix showed it was worth about $100. So a $100 record at the thrift store for $2. So while this may not be the best thrift store haul I've ever had, it might be the second best from a thrift store. And the other haul did include some really awesome jazz records. This one is pretty good. And this record is staying in my collection. It ain't going anywhere. I'll be listening to this a lot in the coming days and weeks and months. And I'm so glad that I stopped at the store. I was going to drive by yesterday and just go, yeah, you know what? They haven't had anything in a couple days, a couple weeks. So I might as well not stop. But it seems like almost every time I have that thought and then I decide to stop, I find something special. So pretty unbelievable. So I know I've had a lot of, some thrift store hauls that are pretty boring. Keep in mind, a lot of times I'm pulling them because even if I make $1 on a record, that's money in my pocket, either store credit or money towards other records or just helping pay my bills. So even if it's a 98-cent record that's sort of middle of the road jazz, but I can get $2 or $3 for it at the record store, I'm going to do that all day. And I'm going to share with you, these are the records that I pulled at the thrift store. I'm going to take them to the record shop and make some money off of them, and then keep funding the collection. But definitely some keepers in here. All those records that were sleeved and a few that aren't, need to listen to, go through them all. But just really blown away by what I have been able to find at the thrift store. Just pretty remarkable that these records pop up. And I'm very grateful. So grateful to all of you for watching and hanging out. I know this was a longer video and I'm glad I got you a flip through to watch as well. But let me know in the comments what you think. What's your feedback? What records would you have kept? Did I overlook anything in the flip through video that I should have kept? And go from there. So thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.